Welcome back everyone. This video is going to be a little bit shorter than usual. There's not a hell of a lot that happened visually since the last video. Nevertheless, I thought I'd keep you in a loop and give you an update. So finally I got around it and installed the water tanks. So let's take a look at that. I started with the grey water tank, and in order to fit it in here I had to cut out a little piece of the paneling, which really was a pain in the butt to say the least. There was just very little room to move around, but I got it done eventually. As you can see, I really don't have the space for a traditional siphon like this one, so I'm using this waste valve. It basically has a membrane inline, which doesn't allow any bad smells to come up from the grey water tank. And because of the way this valve is designed, it is a really good choice when space is a problem, which is why you can find them a lot in RVs and tiny houses. There are a couple things that I learned from installing the grey water tank. First, water tanks are expensive. I almost paid $270 Canadian for this 20-gallon grey water tank. That's a lot of money for a couple pounds of plastic. Second, there are not many options out there when it comes to the dimensions for the water tanks, at least not where I live. And also, they're really a nightmare to install in tight spaces. So one day I was looking around for alternatives for the freshwater tank, and then I found this. That is a 63-gallon water bladder made from 1.2 millimeter PVC canvas for $180 Canadian on Amazon. Now that's $90 cheaper than the grey water tank and has 3 times more the capacity. That sounds pretty good to me. So I went ahead and ordered one of those water bladder tanks. I found many different sizes and shapes on Amazon, and the one I chose happened to fit perfectly in the space that was meant for the freshwater tank. Now, a lot of those sellers do offer to customize the tank to your liking in size and shape, so this really could be an option for everyone, no matter how weird the dimensions might be that you need. However, I had to add one fitting to make this work in my scenario, and then I tested the whole thing on our porch first to make sure I don't have any leaks. I raised part of the floor with a couple chunks of foam board, which will help to funnel the water in one corner. Well, and then I installed the tank, which was an absolute breeze this time, and I pumped up the tank with some air first, which made it easier to place the bladder and to make sure there are no creases, especially on the bottom. And after installing the pumps, and after at least a dozen trips to the hardware store to buy more fittings, I finally could fill up the tank partway and test the entire system. Alright, so this was the first test. I just disconnected the battery from the water pump so there's no more pressure on the lines. And I let enough water run down the shower drain to fill up the grey water tank just a couple inch, and that just tells me if those are leaking or not, and so far they're fine. I had a small leak right here. Believe it or not, I forgot to tighten one of those clamps here, so that wasn't a big deal. I had a couple leaks on those, not a big deal either, because eventually they will be removed and there will be a line going towards the sink. Unfortunately though, I have a leak right under the shower drain somewhere, and of course this is the hardest part to access, so I'm gonna have to see what I can do about that. So it turned out just a rubber seal on the shower drain here was not sitting right, and that caused a major leak down there, and thankfully I could fix this from up here, otherwise this would have been a real nightmare. And there's one more thing I wanted to show you guys, and that's the seal up here on the shower storage unit. Some of you were wondering how well this would work, and I purposely took the shower head and sprayed this down for a minute. Something that never would happen in reality, but I did it anyways for test purposes. And it is definitely wet up here, but if we go to the other side, it's really completely dry up there. So the seal is working on all edges. However, I think it is a smart idea to just take a towel in the end of a shower and just give this a quick wipe, at least the upper edge here. On the sides it will just run down. And yeah, that should take care of the little bit of water that sits up there, if any gets there at all, because the angle of the shower head doesn't really aim towards that. So yeah, I'm not too worried about this. Well, it was a good thing to give this all a test run and to spot all of those leaks. I actually had another leak on the grey water pump, but that one is taken care of now too. This whole plumbing thing is not really my department, and I sure underestimated the budget that I needed for all the fittings and adapters, and it was no joke when I said I must have went a dozen times to the hardware store just for plumbing parts. Okay, now that's the current situation on the water system. I did tie up some loose ends around the boat. Little things that are just not worth filming, like installing the hardware on those floor hatches or installing more of those pot lights and dealing with part of the electrical system. Now there's one more thing I would like to show you. If you watched part 10 of this build, you might remember the ceiling lights that I put in this hollow center beam of the bed frame here. Now back then I just hooked up the trailer battery temporarily just to demonstrate the lights. But if I would want to wire this up more permanently, I would have to run a wire on one of those arms here just to get to my power supply. Now that would be possible, but not ideal, since the wire would be under some movement at least twice a day. Now you may have noticed I own a lot of 20-volt battery powered tools, and I intend to keep most of them in the future. So I thought maybe there's a way to use those batteries as power supply. Now the problem is the lights need 12 volt and the battery supply is 20 volt. So if I would hook them up directly, the lights would burn out rather quickly. And then one day I stumbled across this little guy here on Amazon. This adapter has two USB outlets, it has a light, and most importantly, it has a 12 volt outlet as well. So all I had to do is buy myself one of those pigtails and wire it up. And I created a little pocket in the corner here where the battery can sit under the mattress. And with the 4 amp hour battery I can get 25 hours of light, and with the big 8 amp hour battery I can get 50 hours of light. Now realistically you would turn on the lights just for a couple hours a day, so that means you would get weeks of light out of just one battery. I think this is just a really great way to get more use out of your tool batteries, and with this adapter here there are really endless applications. Alright, well that's all I got for now. Thanks for watching, stay tuned for more, and I will see you the next time.